to another PSBN broadcast of Pretend Football Now. My God, Maul, have we got an epic Week 9 to discuss.
It is absolutely fantastic. So many tight games that have gone down to the absolute wire. Some fantastic trades and a brand new coach interview.
Absolutely. I'm excited for that interview. So without further ado, let's get you to the show.
And the Maul's matchup this week pits division foes, the not very goods and the tinky, winky, stinky pinkies, jockeying for playoff position. The Stinky Pinkies stole the game in what one GM called the most epic pretend football ending ever, 85-84. Coach Adesso was stunned when high-dollar free agent pickup Malcolm Floyd went down early Monday night, leaving a gaping 0 in the dirty digit stat line. But he was lucky to see that the rest of his team picked up the slack. Allen Hurns grabbed a clean 25, while the other Charger on the roster, Danny Woodhead, delivered a dirty 22. The rest of the lineup was a little underwhelming, and the 30 points that Delaney Walker had on the filthy finger bench loomed large as the games were coming to a close. But it wasn't meant to be. Coach Swanson needed some breaks to fall his way in order to put some space in the standings between his not very goods and the equally miserable meatballs. With his chips on the line, we once again learned just how the team earned their nickname. Randall Cobb surged with 19 points and Shane Vereen ran and caught his heart out for 13 more. But as is often the case in pretend football, it was one massively mutinous misplay that doomed the beast from the victory. Devin,
You like that? You like the Funchies points, huh? You like that, Maul? How's that taste in your mouth? It tastes good to the Funchies.
Devin the Funches wasted his best game ever. 16 points on the bench as Coach Swanson chose to ram the football between his foes' buttocks with Chief Gronk and Martavis Bryant, who scored a languishing 8 and 12 respectively. This win lifts the Tinky Winky Stinky Pinkies to 7-2 within his division, a record that's even better than the division-leading Lip Smack and Flapjacks. With 6 games to go, the Pinkies have now punched their ticket into the NJC FFL playoffs. As for the goods, if the season ended today, they'd be in, but could still fall into the basement in the next 3 weeks and miss the postseason. I suppose we're all in for a not very good meatball mashup as the season grinds to a close. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, very special guest all the way from the Catskill Coliseum, head coach of the Catskill Cleavers, Coach Joe Pfeiffer. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Psych and Maul, how are you?
Rather well.
We're doing absolutely peachy. Let's start it off right here. Now, your team finally picked up its first double win this week in Week 9. It was highlighted by a very surprising upset of your division rivals, the Bill Brunoists. How were the Cleavers able to put together such a dominating performance with 140 total points?
I'm glad you asked, because we are savoring in this victory right now. With all the smack talking that was going on from the Brunoists this week, we came to play. You know, they gave us a lot of fodder for motivation, and they were able to put up a solid game, those Brunoists, as we expected. But we came to play. They are who exactly we thought they were. We didn't let them off the hook.
Nice.
Well, it's very exciting. So, now, would you say that the Cleavers are getting sharp at just the right time?
I would say exactly that. I would. You know, it's been a struggle this year with some injuries and things like that. But we brought on our new quarterback, Blake Bortles. Have a lot of faith in him. We brought on some wide receiver depth with Brandon LaFell. And there's a whole new energy in the locker room these days up here in the Catskills.
Absolutely. Well, honestly, to this point, it's been mostly a down year for the Cleavers. Considering the loss of Le'Veon Bell and the fact that you've only now just begun to get Des Bryant back in the games, how exactly have you stayed afloat?
It's been a war of attrition for sure. You know, the loss of Le'Veon was huge for us, as we were just expecting to get Des back, and you know he's been out all season, so we've got to pick up. You know, next man up. And D'Angelo has shown up big time for us. You know, we've got a lot of pride in this locker room. A lot of guys who have strong mental and physical attributes. A lot of backwoods guys from up here in the Catskills, chopping a lot of that firewood. We got a lot more muscles than we do teeth, if you will. So we come to play. We fought through it, and we're ready to make some noise.
You talked a little earlier about adding new players to the roster, and can you confirm some of the breaking news coming into PSBN that you have traded your newly acquired running back Jeremy Langford and Ted Ginn Jr. to the Vagina Flowers for Justin Forsett and Martellus Bryant?
Yes, that would be Martellus Bennett. You'll be hearing his name a lot more there, Maul. You should get it right because with the addition of Justin Forsett and Martellus to this team, we believe we're unstoppable now. We've put it all together. As long as we've gotten past that injury bug, which I believe we've certainly paid our dues this season with that, the whole league should be on notice. The Cleavers are ready.
All right, well, do you have any concerns that you may be helping out a team that sits 2 games ahead of you in the standings, especially considering that the playoffs are only 3 weeks away?
That's a good question because we don't normally deal with vagina terrorists, but we had to do it this time. The situation sort of panned out for both of us. Had to pull the trigger on this deal, and we think they're floundering a little bit. So we'll see them this week, and I think Mr. Forsett has something to say about how he was treated out there in Georgia O'Keeffeville.
Oh, well, that's a very interesting note. Now, I'll have you know there, Coach, that when we get players' names wrong, it's strictly the fault of Craig Guter. Normally here, our statistician, he runs all the names and numbers for us, so if there's any failings, it's totally on Craig. We miss him dearly. We wish he would be back soon.
I don't.
Well, you wouldn't.
I don't.
So to wrap here, Coach, do you have any parting words for the rest of the NJC FFL?
Yes, the rest of the league, as I've said, be on notice. The Catskill Cleavers are about to make some noise.
Well, it's a very interesting bit of noise that you made with us, and thank you very much for joining us. It was our pleasure to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the Catskill Coliseum, Coach Joe Pfeiffer.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Maul, let's take a break from breaking down the games to paint everyone a playoff picture. With only 3 weeks to go, there are some insane playoff races in the NJC FFL. Absolutely ridiculous. The Lip Smack and Flapjacks are in, and they're going to clinch their division and a bye by losing 2 fewer games than the second place Tinky Winky Stinky Pinkies through the stretch runs. The Pinkies, they're also in, and they would need to win at least 3 more games while watching the Flapjacks lose 4 of their next 6. The Not Very Goods could still, theoretically, win the division if they win out and watch the Flapjacks and the Pinkies implode, but it's much more likely that they clinch a playoff spot with 4 wins or losses by the Meatballs in any 2 games. Now, the Meatballs could still sneak in by winning at least 4 games and while watching the Goods, lose out completely. But again, any 2 losses by the Meatballs will end their playoff hopes.
Yeah, well, that is a very, very tight division race there, Syke. But we have the tightest division in the NJC FFL right ahead of us. The Sharpsville Gravy Legs cling to a 4-game lead over both the Lakehurst Dirigibles and Dogs Doomsday Destroyers. They win the division with 3 more wins. The Dirigibles and the Destroyers, however, are in similar positions. They both need to win 4 of their next 6 and watch the Gravy Legs collapse in order to steal the division title and the first round bye.
Absolutely.
Coach Dina Grass, Bruno, is still in the mix as well. She could still storm the gates of Sharpsville and usurp the division crown by winning out and watching the other teams falter heavily. Should she win at least 2 more games than either the Dirigibles or the Destroyers, she would still sneak in as a wild card.
Absolutely. That would be a true division of power. There's so much tension in that division. I love it. I love it. Maul, let's bring it over to Division C. Coach Kylan Swanson and the Suck It Parade that is the Bill Brunoists are in and will clinch the division by winning at least 4 games.
What a season he's having.
Absolutely. The kid's just unstoppable. Hot hand.
Hot hand.
Absolutely. The Georgia O'Keeffe Vagina Flowers, they sit comfortably in second, 3 games back, and they could grow into a division champion with 4 more wins than the Brunoists. The pesky Catskill Cleavers are just 2 games back, and they can clinch a playoff berth with 4 more wins.
That's sneaky Joe Pfeiffer.
Absolutely. He's a blood-splattered Catskill Jack. You can never count him out, even when he's down.
Never count him.
Whew, absolutely not. Now, with 6 wins and some luck, he could probably chop down some of those big trees before him and rise to be a division champion once more. Coach Shooter Cook and the Buckets, there's no delusions they can hold on to at this point.
Nah.
I'm sorry to say it, but the division has long since spilled from their grasp just like an overfilled bucket.
That's sad.
It's so sad. And all they can really hope for now is a meager playoff berth, but it will take at least 4 more wins than the Cleavers in the home stretch.
I don't know if they can do it. It seems like it's going to be a really, really tight end to that division.
Absolutely. It's been a long and hard journey for the Buckets. I would love to see them dethrone the Cleavers, but honestly, in reality, I don't think that's going to happen.
Nor do I. And our final division might as well be called the Intimidation Bracket.
You got that right.
Oh man. Our defending pretend world champion Greg Cooter and his Beavers have long since clinched the division title, and currently they hold the best record in the entire NJCFFL.
They have been on a roll, like an unstoppable juggernaut, rolling over everything in their way.
He's constantly making great decisions. His free agent pickups have been on point, and his drafting has been excellent.
Absolutely.
Greg Cooter has this division by a stranglehold and perhaps the entire league. By virtue of a tie, the Maplewood Smoke Kevin Bacons hold a 1/2 game lead over the Detroit Robocops, and both can clinch a playoff berth with 5 more wins. Coach Eric Menzie and his Wrath of Platypus have been mired in the basement all season long and face a steep climb if they're going to duck, build, swim their way back into the playoffs. They need to win at least 4 more games than either the Robocops or the Bacons to get in. This is such an interesting position because none of these other teams have even sniffed the shorts of the Beavers. Do you think that any of them can get back into this?
Well, I'll tell you what, as I share a close personal connection with Coach Bub Flipper, he has told me that he is revamping his team, he's going to push them out there, and they're going to get the win, otherwise they're just not going to eat, he's just not going to feed them.
Well, I mean, food is rather scarce there in Detroit, so it makes perfect sense. However, it's important to note that the trade deadline is actually looming right ahead of us. Not this coming Thursday, but the Thursday after. That's going to make for some very interesting things. Some of these teams need to make some moves to get back into the playoff hunt, especially teams like the Wrath of Platypus and the Beavers, or I shouldn't say the Beavers, the Buckets, the Moonwalker. These teams are really in the doldrums and need to shake things up.
Absolutely. It's going to be open house on a lot of players. A lot of those trades are going to be slinging. It's going to be a crazy time. My God, this is when I love pretend football.
Pretend football is most exciting right now.
Right now. And only on pretend football now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the disgusting mess on my operating table this week. It's time for Sykes' Scalpel. In what technically could be called a game of football, the Dogs Doomsday Destroyers gasped by the Georgia O'Keeffe Vagina Flowers. It was a total score of 44 Dogs to 43 Flowers. I don't even know where to start with this one. I've seen some bad games, but this one, where should I make the first incision? This is part of the struggle we face here at PSBN when it comes to these awful games. Well, Coach Adago slopped onto the field with a literal garbage heap that stunk up Vagina Stadium. Led, I use that term loosely, by efforts by Matt Ryan, who hurled a sticky 18 points to the wall. Kenny Still and Demarius Thomas scored 10. Not all that impressive, but really, that's a word I will refrain from using because everyone else on the Doomsday Destroyers roster put up a total, get ready, of 6 points. Not 60, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just 6 points. The exact amount of points that were likely to be consumed in beers as Coach Hidalgo just gaped at the inexcusable performance of his terrible team. Now, I know that Bishop Sankey scored 0 points, but at least he aimed for mediocrity. Unlike the Packers defense, which aimed for literally cannibalizing the Destroyers for -5 points. They just ate them like kielbasa and sauerkraut. I mean, awful. Good job, guys. No, really. That performance is worthy of the drooling, odorous fan space that are the Doomsday Crew. Now, on the other side of the field, the Vagina Flowers were apparently without a coach, as Coach Lyons just disappeared from the sidelines in shame, as literally no one stood behind the center, forcing the ball to be awkwardly snapped to TJ Yeldon, who led the lack of an offense with 12 points. Every other player on the team scored 9 or fewer, which led to the kicker. He scored 9 points all by himself. He just kicked up 9 points. It's pretty awful. The Vagina Flowers lineup spent most of the time screaming at the coaching staff, most of which simply milled around the field in utter confusion as the QB was completely absent from play. Digging deeper with Psych Scalpel leads me to the bench. Surprisingly, the only blues that were being sung in Dogstown were from the Colts D, who managed at least to score 5 points. Not like it would have changed anything, as the Destroyers literally melted down on the field. The Vagina Flowers, however, left Martellus Bennett and his 19 points on the bench. Pierre Garçon sat on 11 points like a golden goose egg, and even lowly Terrence Williams could have put up more points than Deshaun Jackson. Now, where was Colin Kaepernick in this, you all ask? Well, he was mysteriously not cut from the Vagina Flowers, despite being spotted on the freeway, his thumb extended, with a cardboard sign that said, "We'll throw picks for food." Joe Flacco was spotted as well, away from the stadium on his bye week, tended to by nubile serving girls, and was last seen eating grapes straight from the stem. Jeez, guys, I really apologize for this segment of Psych Scalpel. Normally, it's an operation, but this week, it was just a double autopsy. Maul, it's going to be a horse race right to the very end. It's going to be neck and neck. There's going to be a lot of closeness. And with that all in mind, what's your word of the week?
Excitement.
Excitement indeed. I feel like I could chew a hole right through my reins if I were one of those horses in those races.
Well, that's a horrifying image. I don't think anyone here watching at home would ever want to see that.
But I am crazy enough to do it. So, from all of us at PSBN, this has been Pretend Football Now.